Hello and welcome to The Best Of. I'm your host, Ricky Tucker. On The Best Of, we focus on the areas of business, entertainment, sports, and the community. Our guest this week is none other than attorney Chad Cardwell. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Very nice to be here.
Yes, indeed. Attorney Cardwell is actually an estate planning attorney.
That's correct.
And it is certainly with pleasure and honor that you have agreed to be a guest on our show today.
Well, absolutely. I know I've got big shoes to fill, so I'm honored to be a guest here. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. We are really looking forward to finding out more about estate planning, because I think for a lot of people, they have a misunderstanding of exactly what your profession is. So
right.
We're looking forward to it. Your firm is the Cardwell firm.
Correct.
And you are an estate planning attorney.
Right.
Practicing estate planning law, and there's a lot that goes along with it, so we're going to go ahead and talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
But before we do that, we'd like to find out a bit about Attorney Cardwell. So if you would, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. People always ask, they start off with, well, how did you become an attorney? You must have a father who's an attorney or grandfather who's an attorney. And I guess my parents didn't do too well because I'm the only attorney in the family. But my mom has written in one of her Bibles when I was 7, the first time I said I wanted to be an attorney. And at that point, it was, the Perry Masons and the Matlocks. It's I want to get in the courtroom and I want to defend the right and protect the weak. That was kind of my childish view of what an attorney does. And that's kind of what led me to go to law school after that. And I never wanted to be a fireman, a police officer, or any of these other noble professions. It was always just, I want to be an attorney.
Wow. Well, so we've gotten that part. We're going to start narrowing things just a little bit. So what is it about estate planning law that so intrigues you?
Well, I turned to estate planning when I was in law school. And again, in law school, I had a very interesting experience learning the nuances of the law and thinking, well, this isn't what my stereotypical view of what being in the courtroom was about. I wanted to get out there and litigate, and there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work. There was a lot of transactional experience that we had to get. And a very dear friend and colleague of mine, Jennifer Moshe, talked me into taking a wills and trust class purely as an elective. It was my very last semester in law school. And I wasn't quite sure where I was supposed to be yet. I was 2.5 years into law school, and I'd taken classes that I sort of liked, but nothing that I said, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So as an elective, I took a wills and trust class, and everything just clicked. It all fit together. It opened up a door for me to be able to help clients with very difficult life-changing decisions that they would have difficulty either making for themselves because they lack the experience that the attorney has to provide for them, or there's an emotional aspect where they just have difficulty opening up and sharing with somebody in order to get the counsel that they receive. So when I was in that class, we had an alumnus from the University of Miami come and speak to our class, and he told us about the Masters of Laws program in estate planning at the University of Miami. And a little voice in the back of my head said, you can learn this one class for an entire year. And I absolutely fell in love with the topic, and so I moved to Miami and I got an advanced degree in estate planning. I moved back to Memphis and I've been practicing estate planning ever since.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, Jennifer, whoever that young lady is, wherever she may be, we want to thank you for at least encouraging Attorney Cardwell to go into estate planning. So, just exactly what is estate planning? You know, a lot of people talk about estate planning. We've heard about it. And, one of the things that I am really looking forward to is people being able to share, or at least find out after you've shared with them, find out what estate planning is, because that's something that I've been excited ever since we've talked about you coming on the show. I've been excited about you sharing your knowledge, because quite honestly, if I have anything to do with it, and I plan to, your doors are going to be turning and you're going to be so busy, because I think it's something that's really important. So tell us a little bit more about just what estate planning is.
Sure. Well, the formal definition of estate planning is the process of transferring and managing your estate. I like to say it's loving someone as much in death as you did during life. And for families, to care for their loved ones, even when they're no longer here to care for them.
Wow. And when we think in terms of benefits, I mean, that really says a lot that you just mentioned. Caring for someone beyond that point, I tell you, that really adds another chapter or another page even to my marriage, because I tell you, I love my wife more than I love myself. And the best thing for me to do for her, we don't know how things are going to end up,
right.
but one of the best things that I could do is to make sure that my quote-unquote house is in order.
Right.
So that sounds pretty good. Let's talk about some of the, I guess just some of the benefits,
Sure.
or kind of how a couple or a person, an individual even, could benefit from
Sure.
estate planning.
I like to look at it both intrinsically and extrinsically. So from an intrinsic perspective, it gives peace of mind. And that's really kind of where I set my benchmark, that if my client walks out the door and says, I'm finally at peace with the things that are going to happen from this point forward. I know where my assets are going to go. I know that my loved ones are going to be taken care of. I know that my young children will go to college and that they'll be able to have money there even if I'm not here anymore. So that's an intrinsic benefit. It's how it makes the client feel. It does give peace of mind and assurance that when they're gone, they know what's going to happen. From an extrinsic perspective, we are able to leverage the estate and gift tax laws in such a way that they can maximize the amount of money that they actually do pass to their loved ones. People have worked so hard all their lives to take care of their family. Well, to give so much of that away to the government, as people say, the government's going to take everything. Estate planning uses the laws that are out there in such a way that you can pass the most to your family, so you best good with what you've been given and what you've earned.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much. That really helps to kind of set things up. We're going to talk some more. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with attorney Chad Cardwell of the Cardwell firm, and he is an estate planner. He can be reached at 901-261-5454, and his email address isccardwell@thecardwellfirm.com. He also has a website at www.thecardwellfirm.com. So he's easy to find, and hopefully people will be contacting you. I can even see young people, our young high school students, college students, being able to really prepare themselves or be prepared by the advice that you have for them. Let's move on a little bit more, because unfortunately, people may feel that, well, I don't think I even need to talk with Attorney Cardwell because estate planning is only for the rich.
Right.
Tell us more about that.
Well, that's one of the many myths of estate planning, and I like to dispel myths early on when I speak to clients. We kind of lay out on the table, what is it that you think that you're here to do? And let's talk about what we're really going to accomplish while we're here. So one of the grand myths is, I don't have an estate to plan, and that's probably the number one answer that I get when people ask me what I do for a living. And I tell people that estate planning has little to do with how much you have. And if you have a loved one, that's more important than the amount of money that you have. So the amount that you have doesn't dictate if you need an estate plan, but only what type of estate plan you do need. And what a lot of people don't realize is that everyone already has an estate plan in the state of Tennessee. All of the viewers already have estate plans taken care of through the laws of the state of Tennessee. Is, do those plans that are laid out by the state of Tennessee actually follow what the client wants to happen? And in a lot of cases it does not. So that's why a client would need to talk to an estate planning attorney to say, well, this is what I want to happen. I understand that there's a fail-safe that the state provides, that if I die without an estate plan in place, they'll make sure that assets go sort of in the right way. But if anybody has unique needs that they want to take care of that are different than what the state lays out, that's not going to take place unless they get help from an estate planner.
Well, you know, one of the things that I always say is it's not how you start the race, but it's how you end the race.
Absolutely.
And that is transferable. It's transferable in so many different ways, because unfortunately people, based upon what you're saying, people feel that if I'm not wealthy, then I don't warrant talking to an estate planner. But if you have someone who's wealthy, and they don't talk to an estate planner, then there's a good chance that if their money isn't managed properly, then they could end up being in an unfortunate situation. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are lots and lots of cases out there of very famous people that don't have estate plans or that didn't have proper estate plans, and the years and years of litigation that went on as a result of them not having proper plans or having some sort of a plan that just didn't quite work. If they had established a plan early and then they became famous and then they got their wealth, well, their plan wouldn't fit the new situation. So when they passed away, the assets don't go where they're supposed to go. And I actually used to have a poster hanging in my office that was called Estate Planning Mistakes of the Rich and Famous. And it was a little blurb of different celebrities that came from the news of what happened to them when they passed away. And it can touch anybody. It doesn't matter the amount of wealth that you have. Problems can touch anybody who doesn't plan properly.
Wow. This is going to be kind of a two-part question just based upon that you just said. First of all, is the process the same for everyone? And you really answered the second part, but I'd like for you to go back and really talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Does it change if someone has a windfall? We're not gamblers, so I won't talk about gambling, but let's say if but we've been fortunate enough to publish a children's book, but let's say we write another book and it becomes a bestseller, and before we know anything, it's like, wow, where did all this come from? So would it change at that point? So I guess, two-parter, is it the same for everyone, planning, and does it change?
Right. Well, the answer to the question, is it different for everybody? Absolutely yes. And does it change? Absolutely yes.
Wow.
I like to say that no one plan fits two people's unique needs. You can have two people that are in the same tax bracket, have the same jobs, both first time married, both have the same age children. So from the outside, everything looks the same. So you would think, well, a certain plan will fit both of them. But it doesn't, because estate planning has so much to do with relationships. And so as I talk to my clients, the first part of that process is, well, one, getting them in the door. That's the biggest hurdle that we have to get over, is to actually have a meeting. And it's the only part of the process where there's not a trained counselor to walk beside the client. As soon as that relationship has been established, they have professional counsel the entire rest of the time. So that one, opening the door and getting them into the office is the first challenge that they have to overcome. But beyond that, if you have two people that have identical situations from the outside, once you start to talk about their relationships, you see that everybody's vastly different. I can have two clients, job, same income, and one of them will have two children. One of the children may have special needs, so we would need to plan differently for that. We would have another client whose child may be substance addicted. We would need to plan for that. When I talk to my clients, I always like to talk to the wife. Usually, she's the one who likes to talk about the relationships a little bit more than the husband does. And I'll say, well, which one of your children is the analytical one and which one is the creative one? And there are times that they both kind of overlap a little bit, but usually they can say, well, so